but center of attention. Driving around the comic convention in the Millennium Falcon dressed as Princess Leia, it was one of the most entertaining moments.
Yeah, there was several... yeah, but that was definitely one... I didn't actually take a picture of it because I feel a little weird about taking pictures of other people's children.
I almost felt like stopping them when, the child had left the Millennium Falcon, but they were really moving through the crowd. And by moving, I mean they're running people over.
I bet they were.
Honestly, like, we were there first thing in the morning. We didn't leave until almost closing. We spent a good portion of our day walking around and talking, and met people not just they're dressed as anime characters, and that was their I believe 8th Comic Con of this year that they have gone to, continuous, not just over Korea, but as well in Beijing. I believe there was another one in Russia they had gone to, the UK, plus many in Canada. And it's unbelievable the amount of time, energy, effort that they put in just to attend these things.
Oh, absolutely. That's just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, just to hear, someone came from Korea here. I mean, on, a scale of, other Comic-Cons, we're still very small here in Winnipeg.
But we are probably very close to being one of the biggest here in Canada.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm not sure how big we are compared to other places. I mean, we're not as big as the Fan Expo in Toronto, by any means. But we're big, and we are, as they were advertising, the biggest comic convention in Central Canada, which doesn't really say a whole heap of a lot.
Consider, I think we are the only comic convention in Central Canada.
Oh, no, there's one in Saskatoon, which I believe is every April, but
that doesn't count.
And I don't know about Regina, but you couldn't pay me to go to Regina. So
I will pay you to go to Regina.
You couldn't pay me enough.
Okay, $1.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, and you know what? We may not be as big as Toronto or Montreal. But we are the only one who has stayed true to the roots. We have not corrupted ourselves to please the masses. The masses here in Winnipeg are pleased as is.
Oh, no, you know what, Ian? And I brought this up, I believe, a couple months ago. At one point, C4 was owned by a conglomerate that owned a bunch of different comic book conventions.
Including the one in Edmonton.
And at some point, things started to fall apart, and the people that run C4 were able to buy themselves out or get, released from this, and were able to get control back. I remember when this big conglomerate took over, we were supposed to actually have Jake Lloyd, who played Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars Episode 1, and when, this big organization took over, Jake Lloyd was no longer available for us for whatever reason. And I mean, I don't want to even get into some of the stuff that Jake Lloyd is apparently going through these days. But I mean, I always felt like we kind of got ripped off by having this big group here that was supposed to help make us better, and by far they did not. I mean, it was almost the complete opposite.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. The very small local companies that run Comic-Cons are generally a lot more fan-friendly than, these big conjoined groups that really it's about business, not so much respect or family.
Absolutely, and I mean, just a couple things. I mean, they definitely went off. I think they, even based off, how they did last year, I think they're becoming better. I mean, last year, it wasn't last year, but it was the year before I went. And I couldn't even get anywhere near the RBC Convention Center on Saturday for the comic convention because it was that crazy. And, I mean, they went off and they figured out a way to get fans moving a lot more quickly. They went off and you buy tickets and then you go to a booth where they would give you a wristband. And as soon as you got in line, you didn't have to worry about tickets. You just showed the wristband and you got let in right away.
And I like that idea. The only thing I would change about that is when you're buying your tickets, give you the wristband right there. Cut out the middle, because all you're doing is you're going from one line to another line just to go in. And by the time you get in, if you've been waiting for, say half hour, between these two different areas, you're already exhausted, you're already annoyed, and you're not going to enjoy the rest, the Comic-Con, because all you're going to be doing is walking. I think, honestly, if you cut out the middle guy, you buy your ticket, you get your wristband, you go straight through, Artist Alley, talk to the ones there, and there was definitely a lot to talk to. Like, it was a huge room, lots of people.
Absolutely. I went off and tried to pick up as many business cards as I could. Just, in case we decide we want to go off and to try to do, invite some people to come talk on the show about their different projects.
Yeah, which actually we are working on a few projects currently. Very unique projects that maybe not everybody agrees with, but, there's definitely a very growing demand for people who dress up in furry costumes. And I honestly, the amount of detail that goes into these costumes is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
It's just, and the cost of them. I've known over the years a lot of people who have made them, sold them, or even worn them. I personally can't get in them because, well, they're really, really hot. And that just makes me really, really uncomfortable. I'm not as brave as some of these ones. Like, their headquarters is actually right near our studio. So pretty much during the summer, I see them walking down the street everywhere. And we're talking a parade of furries. And I'll sit there by the window and I'll watch them. And then by the time it's over, there's like 15, 16 of them that have gone down the street. And it's just unbelievable.
I would almost pay to go off and see that.
Just sit by my front window. It's honestly a very amusing sight. See these guys dressed up in costume, and girls dancing down the street. Yes, dancing in a furry costume in the middle of summer, and our summers are hot.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit for you Americans there, which is like well over 30 degrees Celsius here in Canada.
I just go with it gets hot.
It gets hot.
I don't like numbers because numbers are confusing, and I don't know how 30 equals 100.
Yeah, and it's not like a dry heat, it's a humid heat, which is even worse.
It's a dry heat.
The dry heat. I'd almost prefer a dry heat over what we get. I'm so sorry. Basically, dragged me in.
But yeah, so there's not a whole lot more we can say about Comic-Con. It's a lot easier if you've been there, if you've attended it. Honestly, if you haven't attended one in your city, I suggest you do. Even if it's just a little bit of comic book convention, they are unbelievable. And the amount of things that you can find is through the roof. Most of my comic books have come through there, and it's just, I don't know. It's not so much the dollar value; it's the meaning. So we're going to move into other topics, of course, and we have no music to separate us, so there's our music.
Yeah.
I fail as a producer.
Well, I mean, again, this is a pretty new program, and considering everything that we've been going through over the last couple of days, we haven't had time to really go off and to completely change over. This is literally, folks, something that we just kind of were putting together, just within minutes of, coming on the air.
And I was actually screaming at my computer because it would not let me log in because apparently my keyboard told me I was an idiot. I kind of agree with it.
Yeah, no arguments there from me.
Obviously you've seen Gotham on Monday.
Yeah.
Before we continue, I have to call out the stupidity of DC. Now, I understand...
The stupidity of DC, you say, sir?
Putting Gotham and Supergirl on at the same time is the biggest bonehead move.
I completely agree. I just want to bring up... Actually, kind of... I don't know, for whatever reason, I feel like I have to go off and do some research, and it kind of annoys me. So last week, I went off and pointed out that I think I said last year they had 12 million viewers, including DVRing and everything. That number was actually 16 million.
Yeah, but I don't like the fact that DC is competing with DC.
But there's two different companies. This week, because Big Bang Theory has been moved from Mondays to Thursdays, they didn't have that carryover audience. The number dropped almost by half. They still had a very impressive 8.9 million. But that is still that's more than twice what Gotham did. Gotham had 4.3 million, but I don't have the exact numbers, but apparently every week those numbers have been progressively getting better and better and better.
Yeah, but I can't get over the fact that, Gotham is competing against Supergirl. Two completely unique DC universe, and they're competing against each other. I don't understand what their idea, a bonehead idea on that one was.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. This was CBS's decision. This wasn't Fox. Gotham was in the same time slot that it was during season 1.
I blame the creators of Supergirl.
It was absolutely. They went off and one of the big heads over at CBS, when it was brought up, they said that they didn't think this was going to be a concern because they honestly believed that their show was going to draw in a much larger audience than Gotham does. And honestly, they're right about that. Look at the numbers. They had more than twice as many viewers. And the only show that had more viewers than them was The Blind Spot.
Yeah, and I actually watched The Blind Spot, and the only reason I watched Blind Spot is because it carried over. And I was too lazy to hit the remote and turn it off.
I happen to like Blind Spot, by the way. It's not as good as some of the other shows that are...
But still, I want to watch Gotham, and I want to watch Supergirl. I don't want to DVR and have to go back and figure out buttons and hit little keys and start the show, and then have to fast forward and kind of miss where the fast forward ends. And
honestly, I watched both shows on DVR last night. I didn't even get to bed until about 1 a.m. because I then, after watching both those shows, I decided I was going to watch The Blind Spot, and I'm surprised that I'm still functioning.
Yeah, honestly, Gotham was, pretty unique. Apparently, Gordon now realizes that Theo is a bad guy, but Theo is mayor, and the whole world's been thrown into chaos.
This is, I think it's an interesting line. Just when Gordon was starting to, realize there's something not right about Theo, Theo actually came up to him at one point and says, "Remember, you came to me." And so it was almost to say, you know what, you could have stopped this, but, you came to me. And so it's very interesting, this episode. Not only that, we also got a chance to go off and to see, I guess, Enigma, kind of completely giving in to his own personal madness and becoming the Riddler.
And not only that, he is playing riddles on himself.
And he was literally, he talks about it in an interview, where the first victim of his riddles was himself, as he put it.
Yeah, no, honestly, it was, it's phenomenal how they really twisted that. Very unique character, but now all of a sudden it's like, he's become a victim to himself. It is not so much that he's giving in, it's he no longer has that choice. He has literally fallen so far that he has no choice but to become that character.
Well, you could go off and you could just see kind of the snap. I like the special effects that they went off and used to see, what we've seen during this entire season so far is at points him going off and talking to his, the physical embodiment of the Riddler, who seems to be a much cooler looking guy.
Yes, I completely agree. It definitely was a very unique episode. If you haven't watched it, I'm sorry, but it's been a day.
We saw a lot of things. We saw Butch, revealing that he's now free of the brainwashing that the Penguins cohorts went off and